Okay, so it's late March, and I, like so many of you, have had my entire running season just change right before my eyes. Races that I wanted to do, things that I had already signed up for, all of these things just kind of gone, right? I literally, just before I sat down to record this video, I got another message on my phone about another race getting canceled. And that's necessary. It's one of these things that's happening right now that's really necessary. But it sucks. It really sucks because as a runner, you spend all sorts of time thinking about and planning for your upcoming season, and you have goals. You have these races that you want to do, and you plan and you schedule and you do all of the things that are necessary to get yourself towards those races, and it can be massively frustrating. So I was putting some thoughts together, and I have 3 ways that you can kind of pivot or reframe your running season for this year, for 2020. Number 1, use this time to go back to the basics or establish some new healthy routines. Things like nutrition, sleep, hydration, recovery, functional movement. How are you doing in these areas? These are all really highly worthwhile pursuits, and utilizing this time where your races have either been postponed or canceled to focus on some of these elements can be really impactful for your running season later on down the line. So use this time to experiment and fine-tune each of these individual components. You will never, ever go wrong by going back to the foundations, the fundamental elements that make up a good training plan. And just like I said before, those elements are hydration, nutrition, sleep and recovery, functional movement, all of the things that aren't running, right? When we talk about a training plan, we often just talk about the piece of paper with the schedule, how many runs you'll do, but a training plan encompasses so many other things. And sometimes we lose sight of all of those other things because we are so heavily in pursuit of running all the miles, doing all the races, and doing as best as we can. But our best won't happen if we don't do all of these other things that feed up to our bigger goal. Number 2, pivot or restructure your season. So like at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that races are being canceled or postponed, and it can be unsettling. But what if you were to kind of take the long view of the rest of the year? Maybe your races in March, April, May are getting canceled. What could you look at? July, August, September, maybe, when we've come out the other end of this thing. Could you pick a different goal or even a bigger goal? So if you'd planned for a 5K, what about a 10? If you'd planned for a 10, go for a half. If you went for a half, could you do a full or beyond? And maybe what if you took a break entirely from running? This is something that I've been thinking a lot about over the last couple of weeks, and in a future video, I'll share my experiences with you from the last couple of weeks. I'm not suggesting that taking time off is for everyone or that it's mandatory right now, but just something to think about if you're finding it difficult to find the time to run or the motivation or just the mental bandwidth, you might consider it as an option. Number 3. So last but not least, what if you were to just focus on the things that you can control versus the things that you can't? Like all of these races being canceled or postponed, that's outside of our control. Like we can only control ourselves and our immediate environment. So staying home and staying healthy, that's your main objective right now. So if you can get out for a run, keeping in mind social distancing and the stay home order, do that. That's great. But at the same time, You can only focus on the things that you can control. So don't worry about races getting canceled or postponed or other things that are happening. See if you can just focus on what's happening around you. There's really nothing that we can do at this point other than wait, watch, follow the guidelines, and just see what happens. Sometimes it's going to be overwhelming, and if you catch yourself having those feelings bubble up, shift back towards focusing on some of those basics that I talked about earlier. So go back to your nutrition. You can control that. Your hydration, your sleep, your recovery, your functional movement, all of the things that you can control, go back and focus on those. Don't worry about other things that are happening right now. Think long, pick out some new goals further on down the line, and always just come back to center and focus on what you can control. Okay, you know how when you head out for a run, those first few minutes or miles are just really rough? Your body's not quite awake yet, your arms and legs aren't working together, and the whole body just feels like heavy and stiff. Do you ever have that happen to you? Sometimes it's enough to make me want to just turn around and head home. And if that sounds like you, then I think it's time to add a little bit of a dynamic warm-up to your running routine. This made a huge difference for me. Warming up and getting the body primed and ready to go is the first step in being able to run farther, faster, and stronger. Head down into the notes below and get my free full body dynamic warm-up. It will set you on the right track to becoming a more well-rounded and resilient runner. Okay guys, that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.